Hi, welcome Asmita. Such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I'm sure a lot of women and girls are going to have a take home message, and even the men for the women of the house.
I
So
hope
let's
so.
get started. Okay,
Yes.
so my first question to you is menarche, that is the start of periods, is started very early in girls these days. What would be the possible reasons, and what is the age that you know that you're seeing nowadays?
Early menarche is defined as anything which is before 9 years of age. Because these days the age has been accepted that it will start early.
Okay.
Earlier, we were seeing girls at least 12 and above that they used to get menarche, but now we see girls as young as 10, 11 when they are getting menarche. Now, the possible reasons here mostly are because of childhood obesity, which has increased so much, and junk food. Also, overall, the age has decreased overall, like an evolutionary thing. But more importantly, because of these things, that we are not paying good attention to the nutrition
Okay.
and easy access to a lot of junk food.
Correct.
Like a few years back, say 20 years back, having a pastry was considered a treat. Now it is like every day after every meal, we are having something sweet, and the kids are doing the same thing.
Yes.
And the fat content is definitely higher side in young girls, and this is called as a central idiopathic precocious puberty.
Okay.
That is, there is no reason, but it is coming earlier.
Okay.
The hormonal reasons and all are in lesser number of kids, and that is very different. That is pathogenic, or that there is some medical reason, but otherwise it's generally because of these things.
Okay, and it so happens that after menarche also, it would be like it doesn't really regularize immediately. It just takes some time. Like, because I have had my friends who are discussing this also. Like, okay, my daughter has got her periods, but then it's like probably 1 or 2 months. It's like very scanty or not coming at all, and then it starts regularizing a little bit later, say about 12, 13. Do you see such pattern?
Yes, and that's accepted because that is something like maturing of the hypothalamo-pituitary axis. So that we give time to the young girls, and no hormonal treatment at all is needed up to the age of 18 years.
Okay.
That is a very important thing which mothers should understand, that if they are not getting periods, say 2 months or 3 months, it's irregular, they don't need any treatment. On the other hand, if a girl is getting periods, say every 15 days, her hemoglobin is dropping because of that, then of course we need to give hormones. But otherwise, in general, let the hypothalamo-pituitary ovarian axis mature, and let the periods settle on their own.
So it's normal, like they
is
really
normal.
need not start any meaning they need not really visit a doctor unless it is like some kind of a significant difference in the day-to-day life. Otherwise, then it is like quite normal according to
To
you.
the age of 16 years, it's okay if they don't visit a doctor. But after 16 also, if there is irregularity, the periods are not coming even after 2 or 3 months, then they should visit a doctor.
Okay.
It is also a good idea to visit a doctor once menarche to see if there is no thyroid problems. Like hypothyroidism is so common these days, and anemia is not there. So these things, so one visit at menarche is something which is needed. Also, I feel that girls have been educated about all these things, menses and sex education, but getting to a doctor and a doctor talking to them makes it a little more informative, and they are able to accept it.
Yes.
A lot of young girls, even after their mothers have told, they are in denial. They are like, what is this happening to my body? Why the blood is coming out? So if they get to a gynecologist, probably our counseling may be a little better.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And also about hygiene.
Yes.
So menstrual hygiene is another very important thing. So when a mother tells, like for other things also, when a mother tells go wash your hands, it's different. But when a gynecologist tells that if you don't do your proper menstrual hygiene, it is going to have long-term implications. Probably it will have more impact on the child.
Yeah, I
That is
agree.
the reason.
I agree, because I see a lot of mothers get their children for the nutrition, like sonarani can't tochla paije, that
Absolutely.
kind of a thing.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree. That does happen. Now, Dr. Asmita, there is a lot of confusion about birth control pills. Should it be taken? Should it not be taken after marriage, before marriage? Can you just throw some light on that?
Sure. So, like I said right now, before the age of 18 years, I do not give hormones to most of any of my patients actually, unless like she's bleeding very heavily and we cannot stop and she's going to have a severe anemia or something like that. But after marriage, birth control pills are a very good source of contraception, and we definitely do not want like unwanted pregnancies and do not want the girls to go for abortions. So it is a good idea to take it, but it has to be under supervision. It has to be that you don't have any contraindications to the birth control pills. You have to understand the side effects, like there would be some nausea, some vomiting, there may be some weight gain. So you have to understand there are multiple birth control pills, so which one is important?
Yes.
That is a very important thing.
So then it changes as per the requirement?
It does.
Okay, so that it's always better to consult a gynac and then decide whether you should be starting or not.
Yes, whether you are the candidate for starting a birth control pill or not. Also, one very, very important thing here, I-pill or emergency contraceptive, that is being taken as, you know, candy or a toffee, especially by unmarried girls. And that has major implications on the menstrual cycle, because it really puts your periods on a toss, and it affects the next 3 or 4 cycles. And if they again take it after 3 months, then it is going to really hamper the menstrual cycle for a very long time.
Yeah, so they need to be pretty aware of, you know, what are the contents. So even if, like, you know, slightly you can throw some light of what exactly are the, you know, contents of the birth control pill.
So birth control pills have estrogen and progesterone. Now when I say there are different types, so there are first generation, second generation, third generation progesterone, and everything will have their own effects and side effects. So there are certain birth control pills which are especially for PCO. There are certain birth control pills which are high dose. There are certain birth control pills which are low dose. The basic content will remain estrogen and progesterone, but the dosing will change. But the I-pill contains very high doses because it has to stop a pregnancy which has occurred or a ovulation which has occurred. So I-pill has much more side effects than regular birth control pills.
Yes, yes, it's better, like, you know, actually in the case of unmarried girls, that they should be aware of, you know,
Right.
they should be having that proper sex education, how they should take protection. I think that is very,
That
very
is very
important.
important.
Very, very important. So now my next question is, you know, does nutrition, exercise, you know, play a role in adolescents' life, and how does it impact the pregnancy? Like, you know, nutrition, I mean, even we propagate that. Nutrition, when you pay attention to your nutrition in your childhood days or even in your adolescence, it has tremendous bearing in your adulthood and then when you move into pregnancy. What
Very
would be
true.
your take on that?
So that is very true. Even now, even after we have been almost a developed nation, I wouldn't say developed, but developing nation, we have a 50 to 60% girls and even women having anemia in India. So 60% is like really high. Now what happens is we do not pay attention to the teenage girls. Like I said, it is important when a girl starts getting her periods that you need to improve her iron intake. So they need to take iron supplements or iron rich foods, basically like green leafy vegetable, then dates and all those things, so that the hemoglobin of the young girls is maintained. And when they reach pregnancy or when they reach adulthood, they are already in the best possible health, because with every month period they are going to lose some amount of blood, their hemoglobin is going to drop. So that supplementation through either nutrition or whatever the supplements is important. Also exercise. It is important that you start exercising right from the beginning. Now like I was saying, that if a woman is pregnant and then she is watching all these influencers who are doing yoga and doing headstand, and they feel that if they can do, if Anushka Sharma can do a headstand, even I can do.
Yes.
But she has been doing exercise all her life. So we can't start something new and jump into something that aggressive during pregnancy. It has to be built up.
Correct.
And that strength will be important to carry the pregnancy for a normal delivery and to avoid complications of pregnancy.
Right.
So childhood or adolescent health, nutrition, exercise is very important. So base is there, then we can go ahead.
Correct. So, if we have to just sum it up, like you're saying, like, they need to focus on home cooked foods, which is a lot missing these days.
Very true.
Focus on nutrients, especially iron, calcium, probably B12, D3 also.
Vitamin D3, very
D3
important.
also, very important. And the thing is, like, making exercise a routine or a part of life is become essential, and not just suddenly start when you are thinking about pregnancy.
Correct.
So what would be, generic, like if a mother wants to get her daughter's blood checkup done just to see that everything is in place, how often should it be done, and some approximate tests that you feel okay, these tests should definitely be done in adolescent women?
So once after her menarche, definitely hemoglobin, thyroid levels, prolactin levels. Sometimes the prolactin is also high, D3, B12. I think these are the basic things, and we should be good with these tests.
Great. So now, let's move on to the next phase where a woman is, or partners are planning for pregnancy, and how much in advance they should be planning, like preconception, how much in advance they should be planning, in the sense, like, now pregnancy is not just, when a woman gets pregnant.
Correct.
The health begins right from, a little bit ahead in time, so that, you enter into pregnancy healthy. So how much ahead of time do you feel like, okay, a woman, and is it only woman's health which is important, or is it also important that the other partner, the male's health, is also equally important?
Of course, men's health is important, but fortunately, unfortunately, it is the woman who is going to be more important here, because she's going to carry the child. And not just the egg quality, of course, sperm quality has to be good, but besides egg quality, she has to be strong enough to carry for 9 months. So the woman's health is going to be more important. But for conceiving, it is important that the sperm quality has to be good. So there it is important that both the partners need to be screened or checked for any abnormalities or problems. It is good idea to come visit a gynecologist maybe as soon as you are married. Not planning pregnancy for 3 years, it's okay, but let's do the basic investigations to see whether you are all healthy whenever you are planning. If you have heard AMH, so these days we see a lot of women with very low AMH at an early age. So if we catch them early, probably aggressive treatments like IUI and IVF won't be needed. So it is important that you know what is your health, what is the timeline for you. Because see, biological age and the career age are always in conflict with each other.
True.
Women these days want to delay their pregnancies to 30, 35. Average age these days is 35 and above, because the careers are more important in early age, and there is no judgment, and it's perfectly fine. But unfortunately, our biological clock doesn't agree to it.
Correct.
So it is a good idea to do all the investigations, the pre-pregnancy investigations, and then plan, okay, I want, or we want to have pregnancy, say 2 years later, 3 years later, and because we have done all the tests, we know that it is possible.
Yeah. So, then adding on to the question to this, what is the best age to plan pregnancy? Meaning there will be an age bracket where biologically a body can hold pregnancy better, or, the outcome can be definitely, there's less trouble to the woman ultimately who's going to carry the pregnancy.
Right.
So what would be an ideal age according to you?
So women are not going to like this answer, but yes, it is below 30.
Okay.
It is below 30 that the best and the most smooth pregnancies and deliveries happen. After 30, it is not a sudden decline. It is not that today you are 30 and tomorrow you are going to get complicated. It is a slow decline in fertility. It is a slight rise in complications from 30 to 33. And after 33, there is a sudden decline in fertility. And Indian women are at least 2 to 3 years, they are getting menopause earlier, or we are aging a little earlier than the Western counterparts. So if you see international papers, internationally they will say 33 and 35 instead of 30 and 33. But for Indian women, it's 30.
Yeah, so it's better to plan it probably at least the first one before 30?
We are talking only of first
one before 30.
Because see, a second one is always okay. You can take your time and then decide.
Correct. So now my next question would be, something very interesting, something very savvy. Nowadays we hear about egg freezing.
Correct.
Can you just throw some light on that?
Right. So, egg freezing is really a very important boon of medical science or IVF treatment as such. We can do egg freezing for anyone who is wishing to sort of freeze their fertility and delay their pregnancies. If they are married and they are into a stable relationship, we can even do embryo freezing so that the sperm's age is also frozen, and we make a embryo and freeze the embryo.
Amazing.
But for an unmarried single woman or for a woman who is not sure about whether they want to, there are a lot of couples who are not very sure whether they are going to be in a stable relationship, and that is the reason they are delaying pregnancy. So in that case also, egg freezing becomes a very important option. But again, egg freezing should be done at the right age. You can't do egg freezing at 38 or 40 years of age.
Correct.
Because that time already your fertility is very low.
Yes. So what would be the good age to,
Between 30 to 35 would be a very ideal age for egg freezing.
Okay.
You can of course do it earlier, there is no harm.
Okay.
Earlier the better,
Okay.
but probably till 30 you are going to be able to conceive naturally easily.
Okay.
So 30 to 35.
So I think women can just weigh this option, so that they just remove some stress out of their mind.
Yes, and it
Yes.
is quite safe. It is painless. There is a lot of myth that it is going to be a very painful procedure. I have a lot of women. Actually, the acceptance is much better after a lot of celebrities have done it and promoted it. So I have a lot of women who have done it. It has been a painless procedure for them. It is around 15 days procedure in which they take injections. On say day 12, day 13, we do the egg pickup and then freeze it.
Amazing. That's a good avenue for women to
Yes.
consider these days. So let's just move to the next question. According to you, like once a woman is pregnant, how important is nutrition during pregnancy, throughout the 9 months of pregnancy and even post delivery?
So, if mother is having good food and mother's nutrition is taken care of, then only the child is going to be healthy. And we are talking of an entire generation. The next generation will be healthy if we are having good nutrition for the mothers. And this is seen. Maybe say 40-50 years back, the entire generation was slightly weaker, slightly shorter. Nowadays we see kids with good heights. That is because of improved nutrition during pregnancy.
Correct.
Nutrition of the mother. So it is very, very important. Also, there is this theory which says that intrauterine nutrition has implications on adult diseases.
So true.
So intrauterine growth restriction will be linked to diabetes later in life. So a child who is not getting proper nutrition inside the mother's womb will have diseases later. So it is important for both for the mother and for the baby also.
Yeah, and one thing is, nature has adjusted the thing in such a way where the nutrition goes to the fetus first.
Yes.
And then, the mother is then going to be devoid of the nutrition, which
Very,
is going to
very
be
true.
very essential later on in life. Because then we start seeing like old age, then the chances of fracture increases on all these things, So to avoid that, I think first take care of yourself and then you will be able to nourish the
Right.
fetus better.
Right.
And how about post-delivery? Because, women take care of themselves very well in these 9 months and then they just forget about everything once
Right.
the childbirth happens.
Right. So I think post-delivery nutrition is even more important than during pregnancy, because during pregnancy we are having a small little grain size thing which is going to grow to around 2.5 to 3 kg. But post-delivery, a 3 kg baby is totally dependent on the mother for breastfeeding. And we have so many myths around here that don't eat this, don't eat that. So poor mother is deprived of the basic nutrition during breastfeeding. So it is important that first the myths are broken. A lot of women are getting only churun bhakri and methi ki sabji and nothing else. And it is impossible to eat this for 3 to 6
Yes,
months.
yes.
Some traditions are there that they don't put salt at all during breastfeeding. So these things have to be addressed, and after delivery, it shouldn't be only the baby is in focus. The mother has to be in focus. Otherwise, the milk quality is also going to get affected.
Correct.
And like you said, after say in old age fractures, because they are not taking supplements during 9 months. Everyone is very, very careful about taking all the supplements during breastfeeding. I always ask them after 2 months or 3 months of follow up, are you taking supplements?
They
Forget,
don't. They
doctor.
forget.
There is no time. Baby doesn't allow me. Baby doesn't sleep. So there has to be someone who is taking care of the mother. If the mother is taking care of the baby, someone has to take care of the mother.
That's so true. That's so true. Now, Asmita, one thing is like, we have women who are not exercising at all, but then on the other side, you will have women who are into like active lifestyle. They are into exercise, into gym workouts, etc. Pre-pregnancy. What would you suggest to such women?
Okay, so it is important to understand that whatever you were doing before pregnancy, you can continue doing during pregnancy, throughout pregnancy. The best example, we all know this, Serena Williams has played her Wimbledon finals when she was 8 weeks pregnant and won it. So, but you can't do anything extra during pregnancy. Don't start something new. But if you are gymming, you can do even weight training during pregnancy. You can do swimming during pregnancy. You can do everything. High impact exercises probably should be avoided because our bodies are not used to it. So maybe that you can avoid, but otherwise everything. And gymming is in fact good. Weight training is good. So you can continue.
Excellent.
And yoga is also very good.
Yes, yes. So and how about post pregnancy? How quick can a woman get into exercise post pregnancy?
Depending on her baby's needs, of course. If she is having help, she should start exercising, at least minimum exercises immediately, maybe after 4 to 5 days once she goes home. We teach the physiotherapists at the hospital, teach them what are the postnatal exercises, and that has to be started immediately. If you have undergone a cesarean section, then 3 months you should not exercise your tummy exercises like crunches or whatever, the ab exercises should be avoided, but otherwise everything you can start immediately.
Yeah, I think this is a major confusion that you've cleared for women. Very, very important. So Dr. Asmita, what is one common complication that you're seeing during pregnancy these days?
Okay, so maybe gestational diabetes. It is so common that we don't even consider it a complication anymore unless the woman is requiring maybe insulin. So mild derangement of sugars, and which can be controlled by nutrition and exercise, is very, very common these days. And the reasons may be because of pre-existing PCO or pre-existing overweight and a lot of high carb diet, which is common in our country. So that could be the reasons, but I see a lot of women with that.
Women having that. Would age also be a factor there?
Age is again very important factor because women are getting pregnant later in life, and diabetes is a disease which is affecting around 40s, and if we are getting women who are pregnant at 35 and 38, they are more prone to diabetes.
Right.
And pregnancy itself is a diabetogenic condition. It sort of triggers diabetes.
Yeah, it puts a pressure on a lot of systems in your body, and that's the reason why. So now that we are talking about how having a proper weight throughout pregnancy or even before pregnancy is important, so let's just discuss about this. Like how important is the weight gain pattern during pregnancy?
Okay, so first 3 months, a lot of women have nausea, vomiting. They don't have desire to eat. Here it's very important that we don't force feed them. We don't make them feel guilty that the baby is going to be malnourished because you are not eating. It's perfectly okay if they don't gain weight during pregnancy, or even if they lose a little weight during the first 3 months of pregnancy.
How much is the safe, like, if generally I have seen like women lose a little weight during the first 3 months, what would be like, you would say like a safe
so 2
space?
to 3 kg weight loss in first 3 months is okay. We have to see that she is not dehydrated, she is not going into ketoacidosis. So there are certain parameters, but otherwise 2 to 3 kg weight loss is accepted. But a total weight gain in pregnancy also depends on the BMI. A normal weight person should gain about 10 to 12 or maybe up to 16 kgs. But for someone who is already high weight, 8 kg weight gain is enough. And someone who is malnourished, who is having weight of say 40 or 45, they are allowed to gain weight up to 17, 18 kgs during pregnancy. So it depends upon your basic weight.
Yeah, that's absolutely a great way to put it, you know. Now, my final question to you is, as a nutritionist, we really promote breastfeeding because we know the benefits of breastfeeding both to the mother as well as the child.
Right.
So, from a gynecologist point of view, can you help the viewers understand a little bit more about this?
So even we promote breastfeeding a lot. I think it is the most important food for the baby. No formula feed and exclusive breastfeed should be promoted for at least 6 months, but it becomes difficult for the mothers. A lot of time the milk is inadequate, and that is why they are giving. But if formula they are giving because they feel that the milk is inadequate, but actually the milk is not inadequate. It is just that mothers are always apprehensive whether they are having enough breast milk. So there are certain criteria. We have to see if the baby is gaining weight. We have to see if the baby is passing urine, whether the baby is not having any jaundice, and then we know that the milk is enough. So promoting that is important, and at the same time having good nutrition, making sure that the mother is well rested, well taken care of, so that she is, she should breastfeed, and probably then baby should be taken care by someone else. The burping part can be of someone else, and she should be given very good nutrition. That is very, very important, because otherwise she is going to feel drained, and if she feels drained, you cannot give from an empty jar.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true. Thank you, Dr. Asmita, for coming on the podcast. I think our viewers are going to get a lot of pearls of information. It's both nutrition and gynac combined. And whatever we spoke about how nutrition is important during adolescence. Then when the pregnancy planning should be done, and how much ahead should a woman plan. And it should be just when she's got married that she should see the gynac first. Keep the gynac in loop. And how important is nutrition during pregnancy and also post pregnancy. We also spoke about the different form of exercises that can be done, and I think there is so much information that a woman, a man, both can take through this podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.